Good day, students. Today, our topic would be kinds of conscience. But before we go into this topic today, going through the answers to the assignment I gave you all last week, that only few of you turned in your assignment, I discovered that many of you are yet to understand the reason for the formation of conscience. So I'll speak about that briefly before I go into kinds of conscience. In the last note I gave to you, I made you understand that though the conscience, the decision of the conscience, this conscience is binding on an individual, is binding on an individual. Yet this conscience is not infallible, meaning that this conscience is also prone to errors or mistakes. And because the decision of the conscience is binding on an individual, the church sees it as utmost important that the conscience needs formation. The formation of the conscience, is what will guide the conscience away from this path. Error, mistakes, is when the conscience is properly formed, that the conscience can really guide an individual or a person in the right path. Because if you leave the conscience and you don't form the conscience, you find out that even that conscience that should be guiding a child or an adult sometimes and oftentimes might walk the path of what? Infallibility. It will always what? It will be fallible. Sorry, not infallibility, but fallibility. It will always be fallible, making errors. But when it is formed, it comes in the right path and guides that individual. Because the decision of the conscience is binding on an individual. So I've just given this explanation this morning so that we can grasp it, because the majority of you, about 90% of you, got that question 1 wrong in the assignment I gave to you. So you might look at this and also look up through your notes and make the corrections. Now today, we shall be going into kinds of conscience. Kinds of conscience. Kinds of conscience. You might be wondering, kinds of conscience, does it mean that we have different kinds in an individual? No. But also, we can have different kinds in different persons. Kinds of conscience. Like I said, because conscience needs formation. And we all know that this period of formation of the conscience for every individual is not the same. Even for an individual, it's not the same at the different stages of life. As a child, as a teenager, as a young adult, as an adult, as an aged person. The conscience has different stages of formation. So that's why we have these kinds of formation. That also leads to different kinds of what? Conscience. Now, the level of the formation of the conscience of each person does not always follow the same path, like I said. These different kinds of conscience, they have great impact on an individual. The kind of conscience you have is what will guide you, is what will lead you. And like I said earlier on, if you have erroneous conscience, like you will hear about the different kinds now, it will lead you in the path of error. You will discover that it's not guiding you in the right path. And like I said, I also want us to understand this, that We might have 10 persons with different kinds of consciences. Also, an individual can have these kinds of conscience we have spread out with these different human beings in himself or herself at different times of his or her life. So that's very important. We can find a different person at the same time or an individual at different stages or times of life. Now, the different kinds of conscience, I've been able to bring up about 9 here for us. The right conscience, you see that in your note. The erroneous conscience, the certain conscience, the doubtful conscience, the scrupulous conscience, the lax conscience, guilty conscience, callous conscience, and last but not the least, the delicate conscience. Let us move to the right conscience. This that is called the right conscience is that conscience which is properly formed. Properly formed. The word properly formed. Remember, we spoke about formation of conscience earlier. Properly formed. And because it's properly formed, it is also aware of the true knowledge. True knowledge. Because this is what guides that proper formation. The true knowledge. The true knowledge of things or acts or actions. And this also moves a person to do what is right or towards a right action. It also tells the person when an action is bad in accordance with objective law. Now, an example of this is, let's say, a child who knows that it is wrong to steal and then refrains from stealing. When it comes across, for example, in our hostels in school, you might see a uniform that does not have a name and you are looking for your own. Someone who has a right conscience will not say, because there's no name on that uniform, let me take it. The person will not take it, but rather take the uniform either to one of the aspirants or you take it to your room prefect that I found this uniform somewhere without the name. That's the person that has a right conscience. Is aware that it is bad to take this uniform that is not mine and wear. The second one is erroneous conscience. Erroneous, from that word, error, erroneous conscience. This type of conscience judges an action incorrectly, due to, you see there, I said true knowledge. Now here, due to lack of the true knowledge. Lack of the true knowledge. Due to lack of the true knowledge about an act or action. Example, when a child thinks that it is good not to share his or her bicycle with other children, thinking that it's just for ourselves. The person does not understand that sharing does not diminish us. Sharing still improves us and makes our life wholesome. The third one we have, certain conscience. Certain conscience. This is the kind of conscience that is convinced. The word there is what? Conviction. Is convinced. Convinced. Without any doubt. There is no doubt. No doubt. No doubt. Conviction. This certain conscience is convinced without any doubt that an action is good or bad. Example, when a student speaks clearly, maybe in school, about the goodness of helping a fellow student who is sick to wash his clothes in the hostel, and says it convincingly that this is the right action. If you don't do it, that will be wrong. That will talk about certain conscience. We also have the doubtful conscience. The doubtful conscience. Doubtful conscience. The word there you think is doubt. Doubtful conscience. This is that conscience that cannot choose or decide between a good or bad course of action. You know, you see two different actions, you can't decide which one is good, or is this one good, or is it bad. You can't differentiate because of action. And this confusion, this doubt, comes from lack of clarity. Lack of clarity or certainty concerning the information available about the course of action. Lack of clarity or certainty. When you are not sure, this creates doubt in your mind. Lack of clarity. So the doubtful conscience is bedeviled by this lack of clarity or certainty. Example, when a student is finding it difficult to decide whether to continue telling his friends that their action of gossiping is bad, knowing that if he does this or if she does this, this may cause her friends to stop working with her or welcoming her into their company. She'll be like, is it right? No, this doubt is in her mind or in his mind. So that kind of conscience at that instance is what we call doubtful conscience. We also have the scrupulous conscience. The scrupulous conscience. The word there is what? Scrupulous. Scrupulous conscience. This scrupulous conscience is a conscience that judges an action to be sinful or wrong when there's actually no sin or anything wrong with the action. You know, when you are scrupulous, unnecessarily, you are finding fault where there's no fault. That's finding fault or sin where there is no sin. Where there is no fault or sin. That's a scrupulous conscience. Unnecessarily, you are just trying to create what is not there. An example I would love to cite here is like, for example, when somebody sees a priest in a cinema and thinks that it is a sin or it is wrong for the priest to be at the cinema. I'm like, for crying out loud. I've not done anything wrong, but the person does feel like, why would Father come to cinema? Some people have that kind of scrupulous conscience, and it's based on their mode of formation or wherever they receive their training. Now we have the last conscience. This conscience, the last conscience, lacks. The word lacks conscience that sees no sin or a wrong where there is actually a sin or something wrong. This one is like the reverse, the other side of the scrupulous conscience. This one lacks. There's a sin, there's something wrong, but you don't see it because you have made a decision. You do not see it. For example, a boy, George, copies his homework from his friends. He then makes cheat sheets, like making expo for the test. He does this in all his classes. When discussions about cheating come up in the class, he mentally blocks them out because he does not want to have anything prick his conscience. Now he once told his friends, no one is going to tell me what to do. In this instance, George has a lax conscience. He doesn't care about others. He closes his mind to what is true and good. His only interest is himself. He is insincere and doesn't want to try to walk in a virtuous path. This is a lax conscience. You are trying not to walk that path. Like when the word is like I want to put there, I say relax. You know, you go back, you let it, and I don't want to bother myself. The word lax, lazy, you lay back. You don't want to do what is right. So that is the word lax. We also have, you will know this one. We call it guilty conscience. Guilty conscience. Guilty conscience. Guilty conscience. It's a conscience that has seen a wrong. For example, let's say I buy a Mr. with a started of below from a baker's locker. And when the maker started to cry due to the fact that that was his last meal, Abayomi realizes and sees that he has done something wrong. And it is not just about seeing. You see or realize. But the fact of what? You go down to what? Acknowledge. Acknowledgement. You acknowledge that I have done this. I have done this. And that acknowledgement, the fact that you have acknowledged it, causes a feeling of guilt in you. So at that point, you will be said to have what? A guilty conscience. Because of the feeling of guilt you have in you. We also have a conscience that is described as callous conscience. Callous. You know, when somebody is callous, it will be wicked. Callous conscience. This is a conscience that has lost the word sensitivity. It's not sensitive, like a stony heart. That conscience is no more feeling. It's now like hard rock, not sensitive to sin and God. Now, this loss of sensitivity does not just come to that conscience, but it comes as continuous decision from that person that I will not do this. The more you decide not to listen to your conscience, the more you deaden your conscience, and you form a mind that will not grow to the word callous. Example, when a student decides to steal a fellow student's uniform and does not care about what this act causes his fellow student, and does it repeatedly. You know, sometimes this callous conscience, people have seen it like the person can be described to be a person that has no conscience at all, because he's not even being guided by the conscience. Then, like I said, last but not the least, we have the delicate conscience. The delicate conscience. The delicate conscience is a conscience that word delicate is still prone to what is right. It's delicate, it's soft, it's malleable, it's still in the state that is innocent. It's a conscience that always wants to please God. I would not want to offend him in the slightest degree. So it's delicate. It's trying to walk the path that will glorify God. Examples abound around us. A student who always thinks, like some of you will come to my office when something is wrong. Father, I did this thing. I'm not too sure if it's right. You know, you have a conscience that is quite delicate. I don't want to offend God. And that is something good. Something wonderful in a human being. It was to guide that person throughout the course of his life's journey. So that is the last of the conscience you have identified in our class for today. We have come to learn about how we come about the different kinds of conscience. Like I told you, these different kinds of conscience, because of the different ways of formation given to different individuals, we have different kinds of conscience, but this will be the result of the formation they receive. And these different kinds, like I said also, they affect our actions. I also want you to think about the different kinds of conscience I've mentioned here. Think about examples, either in your life or around you, and write those examples out. I would love to hear about those examples. Because when you look at those examples, you make concrete, you make it real, these consciences, because the consciences that we have talked about